That's not what I wanted. And so, if you are... Oh. Well, that's sad. It looks like our YouTube stream is not doing well. Anyway, if you go to our Facebook page, which I'm going to pull up for y'all right now, you can see we have things like this group of people who need some help finding places to stay. These are seminary students in New Orleans. Here's a link to a newsletter that I sent out to cool ways you can help out. The Funky Uncle webcast is broadcasting from the Episcopal Church in Gulfport at St. Peter's by the Sea tonight. Check that out. Also, Grace at the Green Light is a outstanding outreach based in New Orleans that could really use your help. All right, so all that to say that these are excellent ways that, wrong camera, excellent ways that we can help. But that got me thinking about how we help the church, because as I mentioned in my sermon on Sunday, our support of the church is support from many individuals coming together in community to help process their individual relationship with Christ, with God, and their walk of faith. Because as we walk in faith, we do it differently. We all have our own individual relationships with the Almighty. And so how we help process that is through the joy and the tears of communal fellowship and comparing notes, as it were. And so that's why I think helping support the church is very important. Excuse me one moment. Thank you. All right, so it's not just about donating to the right relief charity or something like that. Certainly, if you wanted to do good for hurricane relief, you could give to Episcopal Relief and Development, which is exactly what it sounds like. They do a lot of disaster relief and development, not only just in areas affected by hurricanes, but also developing in third world countries and very impoverished areas in first world countries. And in that way, you know that money is going directly to helping those in need. But it's not just in Christian giving is not just in response to emergency. Part of what our vestry discussed recently was how our online giving has really been beneficial toward the stable operating budget of the church. Basically, if you give automatically monthly, which is easy to do electronically, it gives us a very stable picture of how we operate month to month. Of course, some people just choose to give how they give, whether that's seasonally. Perhaps your income comes in waves, and so you're able to make donations to the church in larger chunks but spaced out seasonally. It's just your habit to write a check for so much amount every quarter, or a big thing annually, and those are great. Please, don't misread what I'm saying. That support is very appreciative, but one thing I've noticed is that being able to track with a good solid trajectory where we know, so much money is coming in, as we are giving it out and using it here in the building, it's helpful. So I wanted to take just a minute to talk about giving in the church, supporting of the church, and how we do that, and how digital giving, online giving, is really, I think, the best way. That's how I give my annual pledge to the church, is online. And I'm going to show you how I do that to maybe educate some who don't do that often, or for them that is a new thing in their world. Because yes, the old model, the traditional model is you go to church, you write a check, and then you rip it out of your little checkbook and you put it in the offering plate as the plate goes down. Well, our in-person worship has been very different the past year and a half. And people giving in plate just doesn't happen as much. Also, not many people are carrying checkbooks these days. So the whole model is evolving into new things. Not that we won't accept, checks in plates, but we don't find that reach as many people where they are actually now. I think people's trends are different. And so I wanted to show you how I give electronically and how you might choose to do it as well. And this is not just for your pledge or your plate offerings to Redeemer. This is also exactly how you could give to relief efforts. So I'm not propping up Ida just to say also give Redeemer money. I'm just saying that this is how you would do that very easily and traceably to the church. And also, coincidentally, it helps our online system that would end up generating your end of the year statement that you would use for tax purposes. So here we go, a little trip down the electronic highway. So here we have Redeemer's website. So this would be if you went either on your phone or your computer to redeemerbrookhaven.com. And you would click up here where in the corner it says give. And notice there are 3 options that we have listed. You can do an online gift, which is mostly what I'm going to be talking about in a second. You could also donate a vehicle. This could be pretty much any vehicle, an SUV, a motorcycle, a jet ski, an airplane, a car. It could be running or not running. It could be taking up space in your driveway or on the curb at your street, or collecting pine needles in the backyard. If you have a car that you just want to sell and get rid of, or sorry, not just sell. If you want to just get rid of it, all that money will go to the nonprofit that coordinates this for us, and the vast majority of it comes directly to us. So yes, we do pay a small fee for the operating costs of the vehicle donation service, but they are a nonprofit. They are an amazing company to work with. I have donated my own car through this company, and it was the most painless process ever. It was so easy. Literally days after I called them, they had a wrecker picking up my car and taking it away, and I had a tax receipt in my mailbox a few days after that. Could not have been easier. So this is our vehicle donation process. You would click here and start the process, or you could click down here. You could also call this 800 number, this 500 ride. Or you could also hit this button that I'm pointing at to get started. It's a really simple process. You just need your vehicle's VIN number, and the title of the vehicle and the date and time you approximately want the wrecker to come pick up your car. It's pretty much that simple. And all of these links would help you identify Redeemer as the recipient of your donation. Likewise, oops, I'm skipping around. Let's see if I can move that down. Move that down, okay. So Facebook Live isn't working either. Is YouTube working? That's Facebook. Okay, Facebook's working. Okay. Anyway, so those are your car giving options. Now let me stroll back and show you our other giving options. All right, so if you also were to go to the website, you could write a check. This just gives you some pretty straightforward instructions on where to mail a check if you were going to send us a check but didn't want to come to person online, or come to worship in person. And I'll be quite honest with you, if you didn't attend services in person because you're wary of the Delta variant, I completely understand and do what you feel comfortable doing. However, please know that your contributions are appreciated. This is where you'd mail a check. You mail it to our post office. You don't mail it to the actual street address of the church. All right, and now here is the bulk of what I want to talk about: online giving. Online giving is pretty straightforward. Click Redeemer Brookhaven /give, go to online, and here's this lovely statement. What we say after we believe. And it's basically, of everything that we are given, it all belongs to God originally. So we're just giving to God what is already God's. So click Donate Today, and this takes you to our church's default online giving form. This is a form generated directly from our accounting software, essentially. And so it goes straight into our batch process of how we process payments. And so, for example, if you were to write a physical check and send it to us, we would enter it into this database anyway. So you would come up with the amount you want to give. If you notice, there's a drop-down menu. So the default is altar flowers and supplies. I imagine if people aren't paying attention, the Altar Guild gets a lot of money for flowers. You could give a gift in memory or honor of so-and-so, and you would write that name in this memo line right here below. Plate offerings and pledge offerings. Here's the difference between plate and pledge offerings. Both of those monies go to the same place. But when we send out pledge cards in the fall asking you to mark your pledge for the next upcoming year, that helps us, again, graft a stable idea of what our budget will be for the upcoming year so that we can plan accordingly as far as expenses, operating costs, whatnot. And also how much we have free to give to those in need. And so if you make a pledge, let's say $100 a month, that is your pledge for the year. And so the money you give goes towards your pledge. And then, so even if you write a check for $100 once a month and physically put it in the brass plate that goes down the aisle, that still counts toward your pledge. A lot of people do that, actually. So they will pledge again, for the purposes of this example, $100 a month, and they'll write a check or checks covering that amount and physically put it in the plate. And that is a act of piety. That is a kind of very physical symbol of their support of the church, that their check is being put in the plate and sent down the aisle toward the altar. However, plate offerings are similar but different. If you didn't have a already signed pledge, if you didn't turn in a pledge card, any money you put in the plate is going to be considered a plate offering. Likewise, anything that's not, like anything on top of your pledge that you put in the plate would be a plate offering. So basically, if we don't have a pledge card from you and you put money in the plate, it's a plate offering. And that's basically how it works. So pledges and plate are kind of the same thing. It just depends on whether you already told us you were going to give us that money or not. Again, they go to the same place. It's just kind of like, how did we get here? Via a pledge card or via money in the plate. This one is Trinity Park in honor or memory of. So if you wanted to support Trinity Park and make it in honor or memory of someone, that's how you would do it. If you wanted to add money toward our altar hangings budget, all of the beautiful silk hangings that go on our altar, those frontals that cover the altar with the seasonal colors, the green and the white and the purple and the red. Same thing with the lectern and pulpit. Those altar hangings are so expensive. They are so expensive. I mean, also anything, those big those brass candlesticks, the replacement fluid for the candles, all those things costs a pretty good amount of money. So as we are, generationally repairing and replacing those items, because they do last a good bit, but every generation or so we have to put forward a good sum of money to have those either repaired or replaced. And so it is a good fund to add to a little bit across a long time. I'm going to skip discretionary fund and talk about that in a second. Food pantry grocery items donation. Our food pantry, which serves people every Friday, gives them bags of groceries, shelf-stable groceries that they can take with them and make use of. And it is a extremely popular outreach that is always in need of replenishment. So we've had, through the generosity of volunteers who care a great deal about that outreach, are buying a lot of the groceries out of their own pocket in bulk and putting together these bags. And so my hope is that people who would feel so called would donate money to this fund, just to kind of offset the amount of money that a small amount of individuals are putting forth a lot of money out of their own pocket to buy all the groceries. So if you feel so called, that is buying, no one's pockets are getting lined with any of those funds. Those are all buying groceries that are directly going into the bellies of people who really, really need them. We also have money for our music program that covers costs like copyright on music, buying new sheet music, the Diocesan Music and Liturgy Festival every summer, sending our musicians there. And then finally, our youth fund, that really just goes to paying for awesome things for the youth of the church to do. And I haven't really been able to talk much about youth programming in the church, just because this past year and a half have been ridiculous. But for example, we had an amazing kayaking trip on the Okatoma this summer. I have hopes and plans to do many more incredible things like that, because this church is an investment, not only just in our youth, but in the community. And just like you pay money into a retirement account a little bit here and here across a long span of time so that you can reap the benefits in the future, or just like you would cut down trees in a forestry program but replant trees in their place for the future, we have to be planting young Episcopalians to continue this parish into the future. And the way we make fertile soil for those young Episcopalians to grow and thrive and stay within the Episcopal Church is youth programming and having things for the youth to do, to participate as active members of Christian community. That means acolyting and doing outreach ministry and youth trips and other fun activities. Because right now, we really are doing very little, and it breaks my heart. And so, the fact that we have such little the proportion of our young people as opposed to the older demographic in our church is a little lopsided. And so hopefully by being able to offer youth programming, we can fully engage the youth that we have, and also hopefully make it easier for families with young people, with children, to attend here. Because if there's nothing for the children to do, then there's no reason for a family to come here other than because they like the theology. And you can find a lot of great things out there, even if you think the Episcopal theology is the greatest theology in the world. If there isn't much for your family to do, then as the father of a young person, I would be much less likely to land here and stay here. Just be frank about that. So those are all the ways you can give online, and there are more funds you could donate to. These are just the ones that are available online. So you would select the fund you want to give money to. Let's say pledge offering. You might even add a memo here. You could even add another fund, like you wanted to also, if you wanted to split your gift between boom, whatever, you could do that. You could make it a one-time offering, or you could make it a multiple-time offering. So it would be happening, every 3 weeks, every month, twice a year, whatever designation you wanted it to go. Let's look in there and see. So look, you could have it do every 2 weeks, every 3 months, twice a month, whatever you want. Starting date on today, and you could have it set to end on whatever day you wish. And then you would press continue, and it would take you to that process. I'm not going to fill out the form right now, but you get the idea. Also, I want to say that we have a, you're seeing right here, this is our PayPal account, our church's PayPal account. Maybe you have PayPal. Maybe you have Venmo. Maybe you have some online app that shows you what you need to do. We have a PayPal account mostly because it's just an easy way to conduct digital monetary business. And so if you see here, there's a QR code, and so in the bulletins from now on, you're going to have a QR code listed on the paper. And so what you do is you take your phone and you show the camera, you open up your camera app on your phone, show it this QR code, and it's going to automatically pop you over to our PayPal giving form, which I don't have right now available to show you on the website, but essentially it looks very similar to this. I don't think you get the you don't get the fund designation the same way that this form shows, but you could certainly write a memo that would say, this is for plate offering, this is for the youth group, this is for the discretionary fund. And then one more thing I will say, I skipped over discretionary fund. All right. So here we have the discretionary fund, and let me explain a little bit about what that means. The discretionary fund is, the discretionary fund is the main way we give money to those in need directly. The discretionary fund is called that because it is executed at the discretion of the clergy. So if someone were to come to me privately in the office and say, hey, Andrew, I'm really having a hard time making my electricity bill this month. I could say, well, let's get some discretionary funding and we'll pay that bill for you. Or let me help you afford your prescription drugs for the month. That's been a very feel good need, helping people get the medicines they need. And all of those funds are paid directly to the individual company, utility, pharmacy, what have you. So those they're not, very rarely are they cash donations to the individual person. Much more commonly, they are paid directly to that vendor, that utility, or that pharmacy, or what have you. So it is paid directly to help solve the problem that person is experiencing. But also discretionary funds can be used to help lots of various things. And the reason it's at the discretion of the clergy is because, one, there's confidentiality issues that arise from that. So, for example, someone may not want it publicly known that they need help with their medication, or electricity or whatever. Also, because it comes straight from my authorization, it doesn't have to go through the regular approval that the vestry would have to do. Basically, our vestry approves every expense over $250. It's voted on, it's approved, it's talked about. It's usually budgeted for, but we still have to approve the expenditure. And so, because the vestry does control the purse of the church, this is a quick, easy, direct, and immediate way that I can give money to those who need it, much sooner than the next vestry meeting. And so it does kind of cut through a lot of the red tape, but it also is a pastoral response. And so that's what discretionary funds do. Discretionary funds cannot be used for payroll. They cannot be used for buying me cool tech things. They can't be used for really anything except for outreach, and in very rare examples, permanent things that would be for the benefit of the church itself. If we had to, if we broke our chalice cup, you could justify using discretionary fund to buy a lasting physical element for the church like that. But again, that is something you could do. It's so rare that it's really not even worth mulling over. But so all that to say, discretionary fund, I think, is one of the more important funds of our church outside of the operating budget. And if you wanted to give to hurricane relief, for example, we could set up an individual fund that is hurricane relief. And that would sort of do the same thing. It would be designated funds for hurricane relief. However, for expediency's sake, I'm just telling people, if you want to give toward hurricane response and relief, give it to the discretionary fund, and in the memo, write hurricane relief, and that'll just be tallied to the side, and so we know how much hurricane relief we have sort of earmarked in the discretionary fund, and we'll just spend it, and we'll just immediately give that money to Episcopal Relief and Development or some other worthy charity directly to them, so that they can do what they need to do. So I hope this has been helpful. This has been less of a spiritual reflection and more of my thoughts and feelings on how we support the church and how we can do it, especially now that we are not in person as much as we used to be. I'll be honest, our plate offerings have dwindled because we haven't had people in the pew. And there is this idea that, well, if people aren't going to be in the pew, they're not going to be writing the checks, they're not going to be donating the money. And that's been true. However, it's not that there's no other way to give money to the church. I've talked to people on the phone that said, oh, well, sorry, we haven't been in church. Usually we've been giving money to the church, but that's sort of fallen off. And if the pandemic is affecting your income and giving to the church is hard, I completely understand that. Also, if it's just because you're not coming into the building and you don't get to put a check into the brass plate, I understand that kind of hurts your piety and hurts your the physical ceremony and act of giving offerings to God. Our liturgy is laced with all the feel goods and the symbology of bringing offerings before the Lord and putting them on the Lord's table, and giving thanksgiving. Eucharist means thanksgiving for this sacrifice of monetary material. And yet, the QR code will still make the funds come to the same place. The online giving form will still make the funds come to the same place. And so if I could stop this, if I could end this conversation with anything, it would be, please continue to give money to the church for hurricane relief, but also for operational funds, for plate, and also for pledge. And if you haven't pledged, just be aware that we're going to be having some 2022 pledge forms. They're going to be coming out later this fall. Just be ready for those and be excited and eager to get your pen and fill out your pledge form and get it back to us. Or even better yet, just go ahead and go online and sign up for your pledge there. In fact, if you could do that, that'd be even easier. Because then it just comes out of your account automatically before anything else is done. Anyway, thank you for sticking with me through this rather long reflection. I'm glad I was able to provide some kind of elucidation for how we collect our monies and where they go and how they're spent. If you have any questions concerning this, please email me, andrew@redeemerbrookhaven.com. You can call me directly here at the office, which is 833-7399, or stop me after church and say, hey, let's talk. So anyway, I hope that with a generous and heart that you're able to help out those in need, whether it's through online giving or rolling up your sleeves and picking up some leaves and branches. But with all that to be said, I wish you well, and as always, God bless.